Across the globe, a troubling pattern has emerged. Young, often gifted individuals who vanish from the paths of promise and return not as victims but as masterminds of criminal empires. These aren't tales from fiction. They happen beneath the surface of normal life, hidden in plain sight.
Let us get into today's story.
One such story, both chilling and compelling, is that of Jaime Cassidy, a boy from Liverpool with dreams of football stardom, who vanished only to return as one of Europe's most elusive drug lords. Jaime Cassidy grew up in the heart of Liverpool, a city with a proud football legacy and close-knit communities. In his teenage years, Cassidy wasn't just another lad on the block. He stood out. A promising schoolboy footballer, he showed both discipline and talent on the pitch. Local coaches believed he could have a real shot at turning pro. He had skill, drive, and a natural flair that earned him admiration from teammates and scouts alike. But somewhere along the line, the Jaime people knew began to change. Just as he was turning 19, an age when dreams are supposed to begin, he vanished. There was no grand exit or dramatic event. He simply faded away from public life. Friends, family, and coaches were left bewildered. Was it pressure? Trouble behind closed doors? No one really knew. He was there one day and gone the next. Rumors swirled, but no answers came. As months turned into years, Jaime Cassidy's name became a forgotten whisper in his neighborhood. While most assumed he had quietly stepped away from football or perhaps moved abroad, the truth was far more unsettling. Jaime hadn't disappeared. He was evolving, quietly, deliberately, and preparing to resurface not as a star on the pitch, but as something else entirely. By 2012, Jaime Cassidy reappeared, but not in Liverpool. He began operating under multiple aliases, including MajesticBridge, Calico 3, and Ash Dealer, each used for specific roles within his criminal hierarchy. These were not street monikers, but strategic identities designed to segment and protect his expanding operations. Cassidy entered the European criminal underworld with remarkable speed and precision. He avoided petty crime and instead inserted himself directly into large-scale trafficking networks. His approach was methodical. He studied port logistics, recruited multilingual operatives, and used burner phones with rotating SIMs. He adopted a cell-based structure where couriers, distributors, and logistics personnel only knew their immediate contacts. Cassidy himself stayed invisible, communicating through encrypted devices and rarely making personal appearances. By 2015, he had forged alliances with South American suppliers and had begun to oversee cross-border shipments into mainland Europe. Between 2016 and 2020, Cassidy's operation matured into a full-scale, multi-million-pound enterprise. Using aliases like MajesticBridge for high-level strategy and Calico 3 for financial correspondence, he ensured no single name ever tied back to him directly. Cassidy ran a decentralized trafficking network that moved tons of cocaine from South America into Europe through Spain's southern ports and Rotterdam in the Netherlands. His logistics team used concealed compartments in refrigerated trucks and freight containers to transport product. The vehicles were tracked with military-grade GPS, and drivers received instructions through encrypted apps, often using phones that self-wiped after a set number of uses. Payments were handled in cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin and Monero favored for their anonymity. Profits were laundered through a web of front businesses, car dealerships, cash-heavy nightclubs, and hospitality firms. Cassidy even used fake import/export invoices from shell companies in Panama and the British Virgin Islands to justify large wire transfers. He avoided all ostentation. No flashy cars, no social media. While his network flourished, Cassidy blended in, sometimes posing as a consultant or interpreter when travel was required. His command style was distant and professional, always calculated, always cautious. By 2020, his enterprise had moved an estimated 26 million pounds in narcotics, making him one of the most powerful and most elusive drug traffickers operating in Western Europe. Cassidy didn't confine his empire to the UK. His operations stretched across Spain, the Netherlands, and other parts of Europe, allowing him to tap into a much larger, more profitable drug market. These regions weren't chosen at random, they were strategic. Spain offered easy coastal access for maritime drug shipments, especially from Latin America. Meanwhile, the Netherlands, with its extensive logistics infrastructure and proximity to other key markets, served as a vital hub for both distribution and concealment. Cassidy worked through a network of local contacts, often keeping his identity hidden. He used safe houses, temporary warehouses, and encrypted communication tools to stay ahead of law enforcement. He avoided flashy behavior, preferring quiet efficiency over arrogance, a trait that helped him evade capture for years. In cities like Amsterdam, Barcelona, and Manchester, Cassidy's influence quietly expanded. He maintained control by ensuring everyone was paid well and threats were handled discreetly. Money flowed like water, and loyalty was purchased in silence. What shocked investigators most was the corporate precision with which Cassidy operated across borders. He wasn't improvising, he was executing a blueprint, one refined by years of calculated moves. His cross-border success proved that this wasn't just a British story. It was European and global in scope. Cassidy's empire might have lasted even longer, if not for the EncroChat takedown. In 2020, European law enforcement agencies executed a major cyber operation, hacking into EncroChat, an encrypted communication platform used almost exclusively by criminals. It was a game changer. Overnight, hundreds of thousands of previously secure conversations were decrypted. Drug deals, weapons trades, money laundering. Suddenly, everything was exposed. Among the many uncovered operations was Jaime Cassidy's vast cocaine empire. Cassidy used EncroChat under the alias MajesticBridge, and the chats read like a masterclass in covert operations. He discussed shipments, negotiated prices, resolved disputes, and coordinated logistics, all through what he believed was an uncrackable system. The authorities, however, had everything: conversations, locations, associates. They built their case quietly, cross-referencing data from multiple agencies across the UK, Spain, and the Netherlands. Cassidy's encrypted world was no longer safe. This moment marked the beginning of his downfall. The ghost had become visible, and once the police could see him, it was only a matter of time before the doors came crashing in. The EncroChat hack remains one of the most significant blows to organized crime in Europe. And for Jaime Cassidy, it ended years of silence and secrecy. Within the encrypted walls of EncroChat, Cassidy operated under the codename MajesticBridge, a seemingly random alias that masks one of the most influential figures in the European drug trade. Under this handle, he meticulously managed his empire. The messages investigators retrieved weren't emotional outbursts or casual banter. They were blueprints of criminal operations. MajesticBridge outlined routes, confirmed drop-off times, vetted couriers, and handled pricing negotiations with the professionalism of a CEO. The chats were detailed, often filled with coded language, slang, and operational shorthand only understood by trusted inner circles. Cassidy was known for keeping conversations brief and to the point. He rarely repeated instructions, emphasizing efficiency and precision. He also avoided exposing personal details. Even his closest associates didn't always know his full identity. But in the end, digital footprints betray even the most careful. Investigators were able to link MajesticBridge to Cassidy using behavioral analysis, location pings, and patterns that only someone with deep knowledge of the trade could replicate. The irony? The very communication system he trusted to stay hidden became the tool of his undoing. Every message, every decision he thought was private, was being recorded, cataloged, and used to build the case that would finally bring him down. Money was never in short supply for Jaime Cassidy, but keeping it clean? That required serious planning. His drug empire generated millions, and laundering that money became just as crucial as importing the cocaine itself. Cassidy used a blend of traditional and modern laundering techniques. He invested in luxury assets, cars, jewelry, and real estate. High-end watches were purchased and resold. Cash was funneled through nightclubs and hospitality businesses that reported inflated earnings. But Cassidy didn't stop there. He adapted to the digital age by moving money through cryptocurrency wallets, giving him the freedom to transfer large sums without immediate scrutiny. With digital coins, Cassidy could obscure the source of income and reroute it through various accounts until the trail went cold. He also used front companies, often registered in countries with weak oversight, to legitimize his income. Fake invoices, shell firms, and complicit professionals helped launder funds at a rapid pace. This intricate financial network made it incredibly difficult for investigators to track the full extent of Cassidy's profits. But eventually, as part of the EncroChat fallout, forensic accountants followed the digital breadcrumbs and uncovered enough to present a damning financial profile. The paper trail, once invisible, had now become a noose. In early 2024, the hunt for Jaime Cassidy came to an end. After months of international cooperation and surveillance, authorities finally located him. His arrest wasn't a dramatic midnight raid, it was surgical. European and UK law enforcement worked together to detain him in a quiet location, away from the chaos he had once controlled. The arrest marked the culmination of years of investigation, involving intelligence agencies, cybercrime units, and financial analysts. Cassidy was quickly extradited to the UK, where he faced a string of serious charges including conspiracy to traffic Class A drugs, money laundering, and involvement in organized crime. In court, prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence: EncroChat messages, financial records, witness testimony, and cross-border logistics trails. Cassidy, once invisible, now stood before the public, exposed and defeated. He offered no significant defense. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming. In May 2024, Cassidy was convicted. The verdict was unanimous. His empire, built in shadows, had crumbled under the floodlight of justice. His capture wasn't just a victory for police, it was a symbolic win for communities haunted by drug crime. Cassidy's fall proved even the most elusive criminals could be caught, no matter how deep they tried to hide. The courtroom was silent as Cassidy learned his fate: 25 years in prison. The sentence reflected not only the scale of his operation, but the damage caused by the drugs he trafficked. Communities torn apart, lives ruined, futures lost. The judge made it clear that Cassidy's case wasn't just about drugs. It was about greed, deception, and a blatant disregard for law and life. His calculated actions weren't those of a desperate man. They were decisions made by someone who knew exactly what he was doing and simply didn't care who got hurt. Cassidy showed little emotion as the sentence was read. Perhaps he knew this day was coming, or perhaps after years of evading justice, the reality had yet to set in. His 25-year term is one of the longest ever handed down in recent UK drug trafficking cases, intended as both punishment and deterrent. Behind bars, Cassidy's empire is gone, but the legacy he leaves behind is a chilling reminder of how far someone can fall and how deep they can drag others down with them. His sentence brought a measure of closure, but for many, the scars left by his actions will take far longer to heal. Cassidy's story captivated the public because it defied expectations. Here was a young man with talent, opportunity, and a promising future, who chose to abandon it all in favor of power, money, and control. His story is a stark reminder of how organized crime recruits and molds individuals who might otherwise walk legitimate paths. It's also a testament to the challenges law enforcement faces in a digital, globalized world where criminals can vanish and reappear thousands of miles away. For many, Cassidy became a symbol of the hidden criminal elite: smart, quiet, and devastatingly effective. He wasn't the stereotype of a street gangster. He was clean-cut, calculated, and business-minded. That, perhaps, is what made the story so haunting. If someone like him could fall so deep into darkness, who else could? Media coverage exploded after his conviction. Documentaries, news specials, and podcasts dissected every detail of his rise and fall. People couldn't get enough. Some were shocked, others fascinated, but all were reminded of the thin line between normal life and the criminal underworld. If you found this story insightful or shocking, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Until then, stay curious, stay safe,